I am Grand Chief Stewart Phillip. I am President of the Union of British Columbia Indian Chiefs. It's a position that I've had the honor and privilege of holding for the last 16 years. I was chief of our First Nations community, the Penticton Indian Band, for 14 years, and prior to that I was also an elected band councillor for 10 years. And I'm currently the chair of the Okanagan Nation Tribal Council, which is known as the Okanagan Nation Alliance, which represents 7 member First Nations communities in southern British Columbia, right next to the U.S. border. Here in British Columbia, we enjoy unextinguished Aboriginal title. Our territories are unceded. Generally speaking, there are no treaties here in British Columbia, save and except Treaty 8 in northeastern part of British Columbia. And there are some Douglas treaties that were entered into a very long time ago. As we all know, the whole purpose and intent of colonization is to dispossess the indigenous people of their lands. The colonizer covets the rich resources within our tribal territories, and in order to take up the lands and the resources, they need to remove the indigenous peoples. And throughout world history, this has been a very brutal campaign of oppression, repression, genocide. And here in Canada, the colonizer came in and undertook the same approaches, and one of their methods of taking us off the land was the residential school system, which was to literally beat the language, the culture, and our spirituality out of us through the residential school system. But what most people don't appreciate is the real intent of that was part of dispossessing us from our lands and territories. Also, the government entered into a further genocidal practice of removing Indigenous children from their families and placing them in non-Indigenous homes for the very same purposes. Throughout Canada, across Turtle Island, there's been a proud history of Indigenous resistance, and I'm absolutely proud to say that the residential schools was a dismal failure on the part of the government. Our peoples are incredibly resilient, and we're growing stronger each and every day as we reclaim our rightful place in the world as sovereign Indigenous nations, and we're reclaiming our languages, culture, and traditions. Throughout my travels, I am greatly encouraged to see more young people picking up the drum and singing the songs of their ancestors with such a great sense of honor and pride. I was so greatly inspired by the Idle No More movement, where we saw the mobilization of our elders and our spiritual leaders and our grassroots people right across Turtle Island. And I think it's just the beginning and very much a part of the reawakening of our Indigenous spirit. Of course, we're confronted with the Harper government and its very neoliberal attack on Indigenous rights. And the Harper government is attacking the foundational democratic principles of this country and attempting to, as the neoliberal ideology dictates, to create a market state here in this country. and indigenous land rights and democracy is simply obstacles to that worldview. The Harper government has been very unilateralist in passing a number of bills that have been designed to erode and obliterate our jurisdiction and our power and our inherent rights. Here in British Columbia, the most egregious attack on our Indigenous land rights has been Bills C-38 and C-45, which has really completely obliterated the regulatory environmental oversight of large-scale resource development projects, and pretty much paved the way for large-scale resource development projects. The Enbridge pipeline proposal, the Kinder Morgan pipeline proposal, are examples of what the Harper government is supporting through attempting to completely do away with our Indigenous rights here in British Columbia, its unextinguished Aboriginal title and rights. Similarly, they're attempting to destroy our traditions in terms of caretaking our children and our families through passing intrusive laws such as the matrimonial real property laws that completely undermine our jurisdiction within our communities. But in spite of attempting to continue the neo-colonial constructs through this legislative program, we continue to maintain our sovereign view. We continue to resist the corporations and their attacks on the land itself. And as I indicated earlier, we continue to walk in solidarity with many other human rights groups and social justice groups across this country, as was witnessed through the Idle No More movement. And I believe we're at a turning point in the history of this country, and I believe we're in desperate need of a new vision, a new national vision in this country that is more inclusive, that understands traditional and ecological knowledge and the fundamental beliefs of Indigenous peoples as it relates to sustainable development that has been passed down through hundreds of generations of our knowledge keepers, needs to be the foundation of the new vision of this country that will bring about sustainable development so that we can arrest the destructive impacts of global warming and climate change. And I truly believe that people throughout the world, and certainly throughout this country, know and understand that our treaties and our Indigenous rights are going to be very, very important in forging this new future for all peoples. And I'm just so grateful to be part of this movement forward, this walk of solidarity. I've been blessed with 14 grandchildren. Joan and my wife and myself have been involved in the Indian movement pretty much all of our adult lives. And it's so gratifying and encouraging to know and understand the spirit and the flame of resistance continues to burn strongly in the hearts of our people. Why? Lim Lim.